Welcome back to Capital After Hours. If you want to know what's going on in Bridgeport, this is only in Bridgeport. And our friend Lenny Grimaldi, who's been doing this for how many years, Lenny?
10 years.
10 years is joining us. Is joining us on Capital. We called you the Ganim Whisperer on our broadcast.
So unfair.
Congratulate you for destroying your ratings.
Thank you, Lenny. So talk to us about Joe and how do you think he's going to do? So that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a wide open race. Look, you know, if Joe wants to do something, you're not going to stop him. So it annoys him that he would have been the Democratic candidate for governor likely in 2002, and he had his problem. He got convicted on 6 years in the joint, came out and made it remarkable comeback in 2015. So he looks at the field and he goes, I'm better than those guys, so I'm going to get in the game. So he's in it. His problem is no public money because of his conviction, so he has to raise it the old-fashioned way. And he's raised a little over $400,000. By the time he gets to the convention, it might be $500,000. And the other candidates can have 1.2. Ned Lamont's going to have all he needs, right? So he's going to be at a spending deficit.
What's his path to victory, if there is one?
Cities.
Cities.
He needs a tighter message. I mean, he's got to say something like, I'm running to create a new Connecticut economy with the cities as economic drivers. He needs something to excite cities and cut through the static. But it's a wide field.
How much does money? How much of a factor does money play in your primary, though? I mean, you guys are really, you know, this is a grassroots effort, and when you get into a primary, let's say he gets 15% at the convention, or he goes out and collects his signatures. How much of a factor is the money over, you know, sort of true believers that he brings, obviously from Bridgeport and elsewhere?
Well, the question is, how much is enough to spend, right?
You never have enough.
Right.
And then that's the answer. But how much?
There's a bare minimum threshold that I think you need to get to. You know, in 2010, Dan Malloy got outspent 5 to 1
that's my
in the
point,
primary.
right? But that's kind of my point.
By 14 points, so it's not a non-starter. But you do have to get to a certain minimum level, right?
Sometimes you have all the money you need to lose, like Ned Lamont, right? As you pointed out, he had $10 or $11 million, and he got beat, you know, basically 2 to 1. So, I mean, the Ganim people, full disclosure, I don't advise Joe Ganim anymore. I'm in the business of giving advice like Healy, whether we want to hear it or not, right?
And look what that's done for me.
Well,
but your point about Ganim is, look, if he's depending on the cities are still controlled by their own chieftains, right? You got Neil O'Leary in Waterbury. We got, obviously, the mayor of Hartford's running, and you've got Vinnie Morrow in New Haven, who also has the hook into the state senate. So he's still an island within the urban communities. He can still be a kingmaker, though, if he chose to be at the convention level, correct?
Yeah, the first step is getting to 15%, right? You need 15% support at the convention to make the ballot. And that's where Democratic Town Chair Mario Testa comes in.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. Explain for people who may not know Mario's influence statewide and in Bridgeport. Just talk about that for a second.
Mario Testa is the man behind the curtain. And if you're a political operative and you want to ignore that man behind the curtain, he's not going to like it, because he's a player. He's been town chair of Bridgeport for 21 of the last 25 years. Mario's a survivor. He likes to mix it up. He likes the action. He likes being town chair. It's important to him. He likes that respect thing. Respect him and you have a friend.
So he's right out of central casting, for Christ's sake.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask
Easy places like in my backyard.
about Mayor Ganim? So if he doesn't get to 15%, are they talking about a path where they get the signatures to try to get on the ballot that way?
They have to do a labor-intensive signature process. So Bridgeport has roughly 93 delegates, something like that. So Mario Testa is going to leverage those 93 to try to get that 15%. For instance, let's say you're Bill Tong, right? Who's running for Attorney General, a Stanford state rep. Mario's going to talk to Tong and say, hey, you want to be my friend? I'll cut a deal with you. You want my 93 delegates? I want some of your delegates. And Mario's going to shop that around the state, whether it's New Britain or Hartford or Waterbury and so on. So I think it's doable for Joe to get 15% because there's so many candidates. What is there? 10 for governor on the Democratic side, and
plus
all these
other
constitutional.
I would do a pay-per-view that Tong tested me. If I could be in the background to watch that meeting go down, it would be
They've
like
already met. So
back to the mechanics on the fundraising, though. I mean, how much does his not having that money play into it? Because you look at a guy like Ned or you know, on our side where we've had self-funders, the question wasn't necessarily whether they would have the money. It was that knowing sort of in the back of your mind that they would have the money. When you're raising money the old-fashioned way, which I've done, you know, it's a grind. And so, you know, he's going to have to convince people, I imagine, that he can take it all the way and raise money throughout the process to be competitive in a general election. Because, you know, getting it out of the primary is one thing, but if a Republican candidate is either self-financing or is taking public money.
Finish the question. Finish the question.
That's my question. How much does that matter?
In the midst of all this, he has to spend a lot of time trying to raise money, right? But he's also the mayor of Bridgeport. He's got a full-time job. So
it's a grind. I mean, you touched on it.
But how much does it matter is my question.
Well, the question is how much does he need to win or to be competitive? I think they feel like they need to raise $800,000, $900,000 to be competitive in that process and hope to get a couple breaks along the way. Because he's going to hit a wall, right? So he's raised, you know, he's raised over $400,000. They think they'll get to $500 by the convention. That's pretty much saturating his Bridgeport fundraising base. He's got to find other avenues to raise money. And that means he has to be relevant to the people. Otherwise, they're not going to register.
In the remaining few minutes, I know, you know, Roy represents MGM, and that's kind of a big issue in Bridgeport right now. How is that resonating on the street? I mean, is it does it go beyond the region, do you think?
I think it does. People in Bridgeport want it. You have some of your cranks who are always against anything that's proposed but have no alternatives to suggest. But the city at large wants it. MGM has offered to invest $675 million in a waterfront destination. When was the last company offering to invest $675 million in the state's largest city? Never. So I don't have a dog in this fight. I just like to see something like that happen.
You're a Bridgeport guy. Right?
I'm Bridgeport-centric. MGM has offered a great proposal. I hope it happens. I like to see the tribal nations step up as part of a competitive process, but they don't want to. I don't like monopolies. I think government monopolies suck for taxpayers. They don't work. You get cheated. All right, so what's wrong with an open competitive process? You bid, other companies bid, see what comes back, make a decision. Because we're never going to know what the best deal for the taxpayer is unless there's an open process.
Can I ask him a question about this? So yes, I represent MGM. You were around in 1994 and 1995 when this was a big issue, whether or not a casino would be built in Bridgeport. Does it feel different this time?
It was exciting then, and it's exciting now. The problem is the city had a gigantic hangover when it didn't happen. And that's my fear again. I'd like to see something come out of this process. But yeah, there's definitely excitement in the city, but Bridgeporters want it, but the city's handcuffed because these decisions are made in Hartford. So there's a lot of back and forth going on right now.
Real quick, going back to Mayor Ganim. You know, he's been around the state a lot in his career. When he ran for governor, lieutenant governor, do you think there's still pockets of individual delegate goodwill for him to vote for him because they like him and they actually think that he's an interesting story about redemption and he gets it, as opposed to some of the others who don't have the personal skills that Joe has, because he does have, you know, he's charismatic. I mean, whatever you think of him, he's an engaging guy.
When he's at the top of his game, I think he's the best retail politician in Connecticut. And it does resonate with some people, irrespective of his background and some of his baggage. But if you look at the field, and some of them I like, some of them I'm friends with, it's kind of, actually it's underwhelming. And that's how he looks at it, and that's why I think, do I think he's a long shot? Yeah. Is he in the game with some breaks? Possibly. So, but you got to get in. So if you have the fire in your belly, you got to get in the game and mix it up.
Well, Lenny,
it's not going to happen.
So this is the out question, a very quick out question. They want to rename poor Warren Harding High School to Obama High School. What are the odds?
No, I think it's not going to happen. I think there's too much goodwill in the city, too much pride.
Harding High, huh?
Harding High.
All right.
Yeah.
The great Lenny Grimaldi. That's it for Capital Report After Hours. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.